Well, welcome back. I'm Paul M. Newberger, host of YG One-on-One right here on YG TV. And today's a special day because once again, we have Timothy Stewart of DeWitt LLP, and he's discussing ESOPs with us yet again. This is the third part of our series, and you won't want to miss this enlightening conversation. Tim, welcome back to the studio. How are you today?
Great, Paul. Thanks for having me back.
Awesome. And that is a nice jacket, by the way.
Thank you. You look as dapper as always.
Well, you're just saying that to be polite. I got to step up my game to hang with you. But
we'll work on it.
We'll work on it. But yeah, wonderful to have you. Looking forward to continuing our conversation. So let's get down to business here, shall we?
Let's.
So we've already talked a lot about the benefits of ESOPs, the types of business owners who are typically good ESOP candidates. You've done an awesome job setting that stage for our viewers, and we certainly appreciate that. In one of our previous discussions, you had said something that really kind of stuck with me. One of the reasons there aren't more ESOP companies is because there's this fundamental lack of understanding of what they are and how they work. That's correct, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I would kind of supplement that by saying that we are trying really hard to narrow that education gap. But there's also forces out of our control that are conspiring to widen that education gap. That is, there are people who are in the M&A industry who don't want more ESOPs because they want to take your business and sell to third parties. And I'm not saying that there's sinister intent there. I'm saying there's more of like an ignorance in the marketplace about ESOPs. And so we're out there trying to narrow that education gap and bring the truly good ESOP candidates out so that they can learn more about ESOPs.
Well, and those are two very important words, and I want to jump on those if I can. Education and gap. So I understand that exists. I mean, you've shared that with our viewers. You and I have had conversations about that, and that makes a lot of sense. Many business owners and advisors have certain beliefs about ESOPs that, quite frankly, simply aren't true. They're fighting those myths, and they're fighting those untruths that are out there.
Right.
What are those untruths about ESOPs often called? What's all that about?
So in the ESOP world, we refer to those as ESOP Fables, which is sort of a play on the old phrase ESOP Fables, which is spelled A-E-S-O-P as opposed to E-S-O-P. Those ESOP Fables were old Greek, ancient Greek, myths, things like that. So, but it's a play on words that says, hey, what you think you know about ESOPs is not the reality of ESOPs.
How long did it take you to come up with that? I mean, and did you hurt yourself coming up with that one?
I did not come up with that. I can't take credit for it. I don't know who came up with it, but it's brilliant.
I would say it's very brilliant. So I want to take that brilliance and go a little bit deeper with it if we can. I happen to have a list of some of these ESOP fables, and I'd like to go through them with you one by one, if I may. I'd like you to start the process of dispelling those for our audience. Are you up for that, Tim?
This is going to be fun.
Are you sure?
I'm very excited.
Okay, good, because I'm going to bring it. Here we go. ESOP fable. No, now see, I love that too. ESOP fables. You got me on that.
That's great.
ESOP fable number one. ESOPs are only for large companies.
So that's a big myth, and the reality is that we do ESOP transactions for companies that are as small as 15 to 20 employees or 5 million in revenue. Some would have you believe that you have to be 100 million in revenue or 10 million in EBITDA or have 100 or 200, 500 employees. The minimums generally, they do vary a little bit depending on the facts and circumstances of your business, but we generally tell people 15 to 20 employees, $500,000 to $750,000 in average EBITDA over the previous 3 years or so. And that'll usually be big enough to do an ESOP.
Well, you handled that myth okay. Are you sweating? Do you need a break? You need a glass of water?
These are easy. It's almost like I know which ones are coming.
How the heck did that happen? Well, okay, well, you handled that one pretty well, Tim Stewart. I got another one for you. You ready?
Bring it.
ESOP fable number two. In ESOP companies, employees must be consulted in making management decisions. Handle that one.
Well, that doesn't sound right to you, does it?
You're on the hot seat, Buster, not me. Don't be sending it back.
Okay, sorry. Don't mean to push it back on you. The reality is that's a big ESOP fable. That is totally wrong. The reality is that ESOPs are run after the ESOP transaction. They're generally run and managed just like they were prior to the transaction. That's one of the great benefits of an ESOP is if you have a successful company that is worthy of being sold, meaning it's making money and it's profitable, the management, including the CEO, who might be the seller, can continue on and run it just as they have before. And the employees don't get to vote on the board of directors or see all the company financials. Those are just not, it's just not true.
So just out of curiosity, where do you think this myth came from? Where the heck did this one originate from?
So I think it comes from the fact that in a lot of ESOP companies, they have determined that their sort of open book management can be a good concept. Actually, lots of non-ESOP companies do that well. Let's get our employees to understand how our business works, how we make money, and how we can get better. And so in a lot of these ESOP companies, you do have management sharing a lot of information with employees and employees having access to a lot more information. That is not a mandate of ESOPs, though. That's a choice that a lot of ESOPs, and again, some non-ESOP companies, choose to make their companies better.
I'm going to start calling you the Teflon Tim because nothing sticks to you. You're just batting all these away.
Back. That's right.
Very good. All right, well, let's try this one. ESOP Fable number 3. You ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. A business owner must sell all of his or her stock to the ESOP.
False. Not true at all. Another one of the great advantages to an ESOP is that the business owner can choose to sell part of the company to the ESOP. So as an example, if you want to sort of dip your toe into the ESOP waters as a selling business owner, you could say, I'm going to establish an ESOP and sell 49% or 30% or 25% of my stock to the ESOP. That will give the employees the sort of advantages of employee ownership. It'll get them to think more like owners, which I think a lot of business owners want their employees to think more like owners. But it still allows me to completely control and manage the company. And I can actually retain, if I think the business is about to appreciate and get a lot better over the next years, it allows me to save some of that stock to sell later. Now, you could decide to sell it all to the ESOP later, or there might be a third-party buyer out there that's willing to buy out both your shares and the ESOP shares. But doing 100% is by no means mandatory.
Teflon Tim strikes again. All right, so ESOP Fable number 4. Let's assume that I'm the individual in charge here. I'm that decision maker. I'm that owner.
That's easy.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes.
Imagine that easily.
Not stretching the imagination at all. I appreciate that. So selling to an ESOP means that I, personally, will lose all control of my business.
So again, false. The reality, as I mentioned a little earlier, is that the existing management, both before and after an ESOP transaction, tends to say, if not identical, very much the same. And so that's an advantage to an ESOP transaction where you're the CEO or you're the president, and you say, look, I've been really successful running this company. I would like to continue on as CEO for years in the future. That happens all the time in ESOP companies, and it's really up to the individual to determine how long do I want to continue to run this company. And so I would say not only is that an ESOP fable, the exact opposite is true. If you sell to a third party, that third party might want to come in and change the management and say, we don't want you around anymore. We have our own ideas on how to run your company. With an ESOP transaction, that doesn't happen because the ESOP and the ESOP trust is essentially a passive investor in your business. They're not coming in trying to run your business. They need you, Paul, to continue to run your business. Or if you don't want to, a management team that you've been grooming to take over.
Well, let's be honest. Everybody needs me to run their business after all.
That's what I was thinking.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, it was a pleasure to talk to you here up to this point. You always bring your A game. You never fail to disappoint. And as I said previously, from a guy that barely knew how to spell ESOPs at some point, I'm learning a ton from you. So I really do appreciate it.
And you learn the difference between ESOP and ESOP with an A, right? ESOP Fables is one thing, ESOP Fables with no A, totally different.
You sure do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to our next conversation about ESOPs right here on YGTV. But in the meantime, thanks again, my friend. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you.